Boris Johnson was fighting for his political life at Prime Minister's Question Time today amid growing Conservative Party splits over his future as Prime Minister. Now, there was high drama just moments before Prime Minister's Questions when it emerged that Christian Wakeford, the Conservative MP for Bury South, one of those red wall seats that flipped to the Tories during Johnson's election victory in 2019, had defected to the Labour Party. There were huge cheers from Labour MPs as he took his seat in the Commons chamber just behind the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Question Time. But shortly after that, all eyes were on Johnson. What sort of performance would he give amidst all this pressure that's been on him over allegations of lockdown busting parties in Downing Street back in May 2020? Well, this was a much more bullish performance from Johnson, a complete contrast to that dejected, deflated figure that we saw in that extraordinary interview with Sky News' Beth Rigby yesterday. He was brushing off calls for him to resign and attacking Labour's record on the pandemic.
I can't believe that we would have gone ahead with an event that people were saying was against the rules or against what we were asking people to do. And nobody warned me that it was against the rules. I'm absolutely categorical about that, because I would remember that.
He even put a brave face on Christian Wakeford's defection, saying that the Conservatives had won Bury South for the first time in generations in 2019 and would do so again.
Let me say to the right gentleman, Mr. Speaker, by all leave, may I say to the right honourable gentleman that the Conservative Party won Bury South for the first time in generations under this Prime Minister, with an agenda of uniting and levelling up and delivering for the people of Bury South. And Mr. Speaker, we will win again in Bury South at the next election under this Prime Minister.
Understandably, Sir Keir Starmer was in confident mood, grilling the Prime Minister on whether he had misled Parliament, something which could turn out to be crucial when we see the final report from Sue Gray, the senior civil servant, into the allegations of parties. And for once, it was Keir Starmer who was making all the jokes.
Well, I know it's not going well, Prime Minister, but look on the bright side. At least the staff at number 10 know how to pack a suitcase. Mr. Speaker.
But perhaps the most telling and significant intervention came right at the very end from the former Brexit minister, one of Johnson's fellow Brexiteers, David Davis, the Tory grandee, who said it was now time for Johnson to go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many on these benches, I spent weeks and months defending the Prime Minister against often angry constituents. I've reminded them of his success in delivering Brexit and on the vaccine and many other things. But I expect my leaders to shoulder the responsibility for the actions they take. Yesterday, he did the opposite of that. So I'll remind him of a quotation altogether too familiar to him of Leo Amery to Neville Chamberlain. You have sat there too long for all the good you have done. In the name of God, go.
Order. Prime Minister.
I must say to the right honourable gentleman, I don't know what he's talking about, but what I can tell him, I don't know what quotation he's alluding to that he's referring. But what I can tell him is that I think I've told this House repeatedly throughout this pandemic, I take full responsibility for everything done in this government and throughout the pandemic.
So what happens now? Well, Westminster is in a febrile mood. Everyone is waiting to see if that performance by Boris Johnson at Prime Minister's Question Time, and also subsequently his announcement that all Plan B measures in England will come to an end next week, have bought him more time. 54 Conservative MPs have to write to the chair of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady, expressing no confidence and forcing a vote in Boris Johnson. It's very difficult to know if that threshold has been reached yet. And while Johnson has shown today that he is definitely not going to give up the job he has coveted for so long without a fight, he is still in grave danger.